Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Gregory, your host for the Event Professionals Network. Today, we're going to be chatting about navigating hybrid events with two of our favorites, Miss Kelly and Mr. Pavan. Miss Kelly, do you want to introduce yourself first? And then Pavan, you can follow up after Kelly.
Yeah, so my name is Kelly Carlsted, and I am the Senior Events Manager at Dremio. And my role at the company is I manage two people, and we are a global team of events, field marketing, and campaigns.
Perfect. Pavan, you're up.
Yeah, my name is Pavan. I go by just the initial P usually. My title at Dremio is Events Marketing Manager, and I own all of the North America field and partner events and onboarding new tools and vendors.
Perfect. We also have some additional friends from the Event Professionals Network on. So shout out to Jess, who helped with the outline for this. And then we have Kelsey taking notes, and also Ashley, Rachel, Colleen, Melissa. So they're going to chime in if they have questions or something to add as we go. So first off, why are you excited to be joining us today? I know that hybrid events are something that's been going on for a little bit now, but each hybrid event has its own intricacies. So, Kelly, why don't you go ahead and talk about that first, and then we'll have Pavan do the same thing.
Yeah, I'm excited to join and learn from others because I think, as we now are almost 4.5 years or 4 years past COVID, and hybrid is still very much still part of our event landscape. I think we've seen larger, like mega events kind of go back to those pre-COVID time where maybe their hybrid format is just streaming their keynote, where I think some of the smaller mid-sized events are still very much in this world of straddling that line of pre-COVID and post-COVID. So I'm interested to hear how, talk through some of the events that we've done and how we've kind of progressed over the years and why we're sticking with hybrid for the foreseeable future, and also hear from others. So that's why I'm excited to be here.
Perfect. Pavan, you want to go next?
Yeah, just to echo what Kelly said, we would love to learn from others, tips and tricks, right, of the industry. I'm very pro in person only and do not like virtual at all. But I think I think I speak for everybody when I say that. But it'd be great to learn from others. Hybrid is the new future of events, and would just love to learn more and also talk more about what we experienced and kind of talk through some of those things as well.
Yep, perfect. And as we look at hybrid, there's many different types of hybrid events. It all depends on the overall strategy. So some involve a big, huge platform, like you guys use Bizzabo. There's other platforms like Ring Central, Goldcast, Tubelo, etc. And some people are just kind of going back to that, earlier pre-COVID where we're streaming, but there's still experiential and other things involved in the hybrid component. So tell us why you guys chose hybrid, why you chose sort of that Bizzabo flow of using a platform, and how you pitched it to ELT, or did ELT kind of pitch it to you?
I can talk about why we decided hybrid and the ELT part, and then Pavan could talk through like the Bizzabo part. But we still are, a startup-y mid-sized company, and we thought about doing multiple cities versus a hybrid format. We even experimented with 3 cities plus hybrid in 2023. And it was a lot for our team to do. We even considered maybe just doing one anchor event and then doing like a roadshow series after. And we essentially, looked at the feedback and data we got from our surveys, how efficient and effective were the events, past subservice events, that's the name of our large hybrid event. And kind of let the data speak for itself and helping guide us in that decision. And so, we have a huge customer base that is, or that attends this event from India, North America, so US, Canada, and then a lot from Germany and the UK. And so just looking at all of that and, the budgets and again, the ROI, we put forth a plan to the ELT with two options actually. One that was a little bit more expensive. So we would try to drive more people in person or just keep it smaller with some of our customer base, but then use the hybrid part of it to be more about the thought leadership and more about the community, especially because our event isn't just a customer user conference, it is a part of that, but it also is very much community and thought leadership. And so we didn't think that people that were part of the community would want to necessarily fly out for this and just really focus on our customers and key prospects. And so after we put forth that plan, my CMO and my CEO decided on plan A versus B.
And I think we're right on, because on site, that's exactly what you got. And you actually got more attendance in person. So your target audience and the personas and what content you were targeting actually was perfect.
Yes.
So some of your content was in person and also streamed virtually. And then some of your content was just virtual only.
We actually switched it this year. So we had everything that you could view in person what did we do? So it was both. So if you were virtual, you could see everything in person, and then to your point, the second day was all virtual. But in past years we would only have virtual only, and we decided to skip it this year. Yeah.
And so what are your thoughts on the success of that? Because I know some people are like, oh, we want to come the second day. Like, hold up. It's virtual only.
Yeah.
So would you do that again? What would you change there? And then I don't want to forget, Pavan's going to talk about the Bizbo stuff too, but
Yeah.
this is important because it's kind of like, okay, they did one that sprawled both that was hybrid, and then one that was virtual only, but then people had flown in and they wanted to kind of be a part of that. What would you do again, and what would you do different?
So I think this year was successful in our eyes, and that we now think that we could make it 2-day and not have the second day just be virtual. I'm going to propose that that's going to be our option A as we are going through proposals again. And option B would keep it as the same as last year. But I think we are making some internal changes as well. Like we're redoing our customer education and training. So we're finally going to have modules for that. So there's actually a huge driver to then bring our customers more and get them excited about completing those modules. And so now I think we're going to have more offerings to be able to keep them there for 2 days.
Got it. Perfect. Okay, great. And with that, so you selected Bizzabo for various reasons. Why don't you tell us why you selected Bizzabo versus the other platforms as you went through that RFP process? And then my favorite was Click. That's part of Bizzabo. So don't forget to mention that, because that really was the magical experience on site that really brought, I feel like, everybody more ROI.
Yeah, we should have definitely done a lot more with Click. But next time, right? So every year for the past, I think 2 years, that I've helped manage Subsurface with Kelly, I've done an extensive RFP to get the right tool onboarded for us. There's no such thing as one perfect tool. I think we all know in the industry that everybody has their drawbacks. Um, Everything from, some are great in person, some are great more virtual, some don't have the best RTMP streaming versus vice versa, and so on. I think a lot of it also kind of come down to the point where the price, right? I mean, if you have the budget, obviously, we can go all the way up to like Rain Focus and have the best of the best that we can do everything. But we also have to go ahead and scale it down to kind of what fit within our budget. I did not talk to ELT. That was all Kelly. So the way that she proposed it and all of that. But as far as the tool, I think after the RFP, we kind of went through all the details. We went through some of the mock events that were created for us. And I know Kelly has used this, or Simo has also had experience with Visible previously as well, which actually helped us move forward and say, okay, I think Visible is the right tool for us. It's been proven in the industry as well, versus some of the other ones that we had some issues with last year. So that's kind of what prompted us to move forward with Bispo.
And I think one of the bonuses is that a lot of the fulfillment was built into the platform.
Correct. Yeah.
And like you said, it's not all perfect, but there was some very specific reasons why you went with that platform. And then you've taken that learning, provided it to them to streamline for this year, but that fulfillment of everything kind of living in one place. And then honestly, having them have Click. Tell us a little bit about Click and that experience kind of through the event and attendees' reactions to it and what it is.
Yeah, I mean, Click, just so everybody knows, it's kind of integrated within your badge. It's like a little LED light that kind of lights up on different prompts, and we have that for everybody that checked in and got a badge for in person. And this is something that was, I think, another company, Invisible, bought them just recently, I believe it was. And we did use this. Oh, there you go. See, yeah, I have mine somewhere too. I should have just saved that light and I paid the $1, right? I should have kept that light. But yeah, it kind of goes on the bottom of it, and then you can prompt it for different things. We should have done more gamification with it. We did not, but we did a little bit, for the keynote and kick things off. Try to be a little bit of an icebreaker. I think overall it's a great tool. People wanted to keep the LED light. We kind of did some things towards the middle of the day as well with the LED lights. We can kind of say, if your LED light pops up, please come and see us and receive a prize, because you should have done that. More of a scavenger hunt if you could have. But it's definitely a good tool for in person to have. Something unique. I'm not seeing it before as well at trade shows. So it's something that I think anybody should definitely implement. It's a little bit on the costlier side, but something if you're looking to do something different, should definitely look into Click if you can. And it's within the whole Visible ecosystem, which was perfect for us.
Yeah, and I think you might be able to convince them to let you use it if you're not using Visible, but it might take some convincing because it is part of the stack. But basically, if someone came up and you had a buddy, you would just tap both name badges together, click, and it literally connects them. And then you go into the app, which is one of my favorite parts, and anyone can pull leads or contacts, any attendee, any sponsor. So you don't have to have a separate lead scanning tool and pay that extra money. It's all in one. But the attendees loved it because it's like, how many times do you go to a conference like, oh, I met Jess and oh my gosh, she was so nice, but darn it, I didn't connect with her on LinkedIn. So it doesn't matter anymore. You can just click with Jess and then I can go build my network, whether I'm at another company the next year or wherever. And people loved it.
Yeah. And they got their list. They got an email from Click 2 days after the event with everyone that they connected with. And so then they were able to go and, email them if they wanted to, or connect with them after in some capacity. So
yeah, it was
cool.
awesome. It was awesome. If I could, I'd use that on every event.
Yeah. I was going to say, Jess asked a great question. We have this RFP sheet that Pavan has put together. We like noodled over every single thing that we would care about. It has 200 rows of what we score the tools on, and we're happy to share with you our RFP scoring model with you as well after this. But yeah, there's a lot that we consider in the tools.
Yeah.
It was one of the most extensive RFPs I've done. So yeah.
Yeah. But it showed because you knew exactly how you were going to use it, right? Putting that time up front.
Well, we know what failed, and having my experience at On24 and so many other tools that I've used, it's like I have to get it right. I mean, whether it works or not on the day of, but the capabilities was the number one part, right? So,
Yeah. All right. So when you created your agenda and you went for your RFP internally, what was the process for that? And sort of like, so you said it and then now you have to promote it, right? Like what what was that process like for you from the beginning until the end of like promotions and on sites? I know you even wrote all the pre-show emails and kind of communicating that out, because hybrid isn't just you have an agenda, people show up and that's it. It's a lot more complicated than that. So kind of walk us through that a little bit.
do you mean like after the RFP?
I'm talking about like yeah, after you've selected your platform, now you're doing your agenda. So Kelly built the agenda, but then there was other stuff like you have to fold in networking time, and then they started with some kind of workshops, and then it went, there's all sorts of stuff
Yeah.
involved. How did you make those strategic decisions? Because hybrid is different, right? Like your AV crew stuff is different, your communications out and your marketing and different personas, all that stuff is different compared to just virtual,
Yeah.
just in person.
So, I mean, one of the biggest things you got to figure out is your attendee journey and your goals. I mean, everything should go back to your goals. And then everything you do underneath that should be an ends to a mean to that goal. So I know like for us, as soon as we get the approval for the tool and the timeline, we just start going, going, going. And so something when we're considering with like the agenda build is, okay, this is you have to think about this is the in-person experience, this is the virtual experience, and then what blend of the two do you want and how much? The more blended, the more complicated. um, and then also, again, knowing that our audiences would be a little bit different, we had to consider the content that we would provide in person versus virtual. So we would have higher tier content, again, more towards our customer base, our customer stories, and then our product team speaking versus a lot more of the virtual stuff was thought leadership type of content and community talks. But I'll let Pavan jump in about anything else I might have missed.
No, I think it's pretty clear, right? I mean, the first and foremost, it was just kind of setting clear goals, right? Understanding both what we needed for in-person and virtual attendees. I mean, getting your team set up and priorities set way ahead of schedule it's a key, your assigned roles, right? Kelly chose an amazing venue, right? I mean, that was one of the main key things that we heard over and over again. Like, hey, we have to go ahead and make sure the venue's right. It was amazing, right in the middle smack of Manhattan, and we had a great crowd. Um, you know, Choosing your virtual tool, I think it's a key, right? I mean, everybody has different requirements, so depending on what that is, we went with Visible. I mean, we have used others in the past, but everybody is to each their own. Crafting an engaging agenda, right? There's as Kelly said, right? I mean, the in-person crowd was a little bit different versus the virtual. The virtual, you have to keep them engaged somehow, some way, right? We had Captello do, virtual, scoring. Some people had to visit booths, they had to visit sessions, they had to take a poll, ask questions. So we had to keep them engaged versus in person. We had breaks, we had networking things like a coffee cart, we had a novelist and all of that. So all that was very important as well. So different agenda with different in-person and virtual is extremely, um, you know, careful. So for promotions was a key too as well, right? So, how are we gonna, drive registrations, right? I mean, we used Snowball this year for the first time, which is, where they're able to go and create speaker cards. And, the speakers are able to help promote it on social media as well, which was something different. We had seen it in the past, prior to Subsurface Live, and it was a great tool. As long as you go and take all the full advantage of it. And just making sure you're coordinating with your vendors, ensuring a seamless transition, between in person and virtual experience. the attendee journey is everything, right? I mean, Visible has two different options, right? They have a venue versus not venue. So if you ever use the tool, you'll kind of know and understand that.
Yeah. And for the snowball, I put that in the chat, but it's SNOBALL.events. So that's in the chat. And then you also had a book signing that was wildly busy. And you had sponsors. So tell us about how you went about selling, what your packages looked like, all that fun stuff. Because they actually, with Click and how busy and the venue, Kelly, I don't know if you want to tell them about the venue, but it was amazing. We can give them a little bit of a plug, but
Yes.
maybe talk to them a little bit about sponsors and partners.
Yeah. Well, and I'll go back to the venue. I'm sure some of you guys totally understand this problem where you're looking at a hotel, and if you have a 1-day event, they want a certain room block and you can't commit to that. And then the price to rent a room is astronomical. And you're just like, this is not efficient with my budget. And so I found this really great vendor called Convene. They're typical to what you kind of see in EMEA with like, a daily rate package or something like that. And so it makes it super easy. They're just meeting space. They have the most effective, or like the new technology, and great on-site support and great food. They are mostly in North America. I think they're starting to expand in EMEA, but again, EMEA already has some, they've already been doing that really well. So if you are similar to us, where it's kind of hard to get a hotel to accept your business, these are a great option. And then the other question was, what was it about? Oh, the sponsors. Okay. So I actually think this is one of the biggest lesson learns, as Pavan was kind of talking through, the tools and the pitfalls, and nothing's perfect. I wish I would have waited to actually get into the tool before I designed the sponsorship packages, because one tool might be able to deliver a certain experience to your sponsors, like chat features or something like that you think would be easy and every tool has, but sometimes it just differs. And so I think that is, the earlier you can figure out your tool, the better. So the other thing is, what we offer our sponsors is really high touch relationship type of experiences. And when we're thinking through the packages, we wanted to make sure it was affordable. I think we see astronomical prices, like $1 million sponsorship, like at these large conferences. And you're just like, who has the money to do that? Especially because our partners are more mid-sized themselves. And so really wanted something that they would find beneficial and a good ROI for them, honestly. And so I also like to really work with them, and this is something I can do again at more of a smaller event, is, who are they targeting? So we would provide them lists, a blind list, which we say a blind list is a mix of titles and companies, so they can't figure out who is actually in attendance. And reach out to them. But we will offer packages to help, engage them, connect them, not before the event or something like that. So we really try to go even outside of the sponsorship and work with them on a package to get in front of their key customers and prospects that we're bringing to the event. So those are some of the things that we really take into consideration when building it. And again, the sooner the better. I think we've found that we do like sell to AWS and Microsoft and, Databricks and Snowflake. We try to get those packages in front of them. And even when we try to get them before the end of the year, it seems like it's never soon enough, because those larger companies are putting their budgets together earlier and earlier, it seems again. And so I always try to have something by September, October. Yeah.
That's a very good tip. And I think one of the benefits was it was not high lift. It was an easy lift. Fulfillment was easy. The booths were easy. Like, it wasn't like this big, huge, intricate setup where they had to do booth graphics and stuff like that. They could just come with their tablecloth, have their monitor, get set up, get the ROI, do the click, and be out. So I think that's an easier sell right now as well. Pavan, anything else to add on the virtual side? I don't know if you saw like
Yeah, I mean,
what's their
you know,
ROI.
I would say even when other event organizers come to us from different companies and say, "Hey, are you interested in sponsoring our show?" And whenever we hear virtual, we're always like, you know." But the in-person part was obviously great for us. I think it worked really well. Our main attendee flow between the entrance to the keynotes, the breakouts, and where we were just kind of doing networking, everything was encased in one hallway, which was perfect for us because, the sponsors got or the exhibitors got the most traffic during those times, and it was really good. Even for cocktail, it was in the same area. So I think that was really helpful. So having a good venue, which it's freaking amazing. It's the point, right? So I think that's number one. Number two for virtual, you know, virtual engagement is always a little slower than obviously in person, right? I mean, shaking hands is one thing, but do people go to the booths? Yes, they did. They had to do that for them to get X amount of points. That's why we use Captello, right? To help people engage, move them around, have them click on things, download some brochures and whatnot. So they did, the Visible isn't possibly one of the best tools for creating booths or speaker portals and sponsor portals, but once again, I think they're getting there slowly but surely. You know, for next year, I don't know what we're gonna do, right? As far as sponsorships or exhibitors go. But overall, I mean, we heard great things for everybody that was there in person. So that's that. A little bit about the book signing. We should have promoted it more. I think that's one of the things that I think was our learnings, right? So we didn't promote it enough. We have Alex Merced, who's our senior evangelist, and him along with a few more people wrote a book about iceberg. And I wish we had done that sooner, but people that were there, there were lines throughout when he was there signing. And I think it was really great and important. I mean, the book is what, $45, and you're getting a book and a signature, right? So yeah.
Yeah, it was super cool. You guys had a lot of tiny little experiential items, but I think that the audience really ate that up and loved that community engagement. So Miss Mia has a question. Did your vendors do anything themselves to get traffic to their virtual booths?
No, not really. It's hard. I think virtual sponsorships are just, I don't think we're going to bother next year. It's really hard. It's a lot of time and effort to get them built, and no one has really seen the ROI. I think it's ultimately just to get a list, but no one is really engaging with your content as much as you would like. And we do ask the vendors to help promote. Again, we send them so many assets and with UTM, so we can even help understand. And we've done contests with our sponsors in the past, saying the most people you can get registered with your UTM, you'll get a prize. Or like a discount or something like that. So we've done a lot of incentives, and they just are like, you guys need to bring us the leads. I think that's really what they expect from a sponsor when they sponsor. And we're guilty too. I don't want to necessarily drive more people. I want the list. That's why I'm sponsoring, and you're providing the contacts. So even though we've incentivized them in the past and everything, just doesn't really get them going. So
Yeah, I mean, they can go ahead and do as much promotions as possible, right? Come to our booth, we'll have a giveaway, we'll do a random, raffle. I mean, it's just getting people away virtually from sessions and breakouts to come and visit your booth, and it's just really hard. So
Yeah. I think the key is to make sure that on site they're clicking, like, right, they're getting the leads. So
yeah.
then afterwards you can follow up with like a webinar or something that makes sense, like some sort of conversation or follow-up thing to push them through the pipe. We have lots of kind of tricks of the trades that we recommend to clients if they're sponsoring virtual. Like if they are sponsoring virtual, having that welcome video of, hey, welcome to our virtual booth. At this booth, you can take advantage of that, watching this demo, chat with our specialist about this at this time, watch our, session, all the stuff. But you can easily do that by creating your own landing page for events, not just the Dremio event, but for any event. And then you can track, just do a drop down, how did you hear about us? And they'll say like Dremio. So you can kind of create those strategies for any virtual anything rather than inside a platform. And it can be your annual strategy and then see what happens, right? It may have some leverage and it may not. I will say that most sponsors do not sign on because it's a virtual sponsorship. It's just an added perk, we have it, your logo's there. I think if you can do like the app where it sends a notification about a giveaway or something to everybody, that's helpful. And Click does encourage people to download the app, which I loved, because a lot of people get an app and then nobody downloads it and it's sort of this waste. But with Click, you do download it because you have to access your own contacts and sort of leads that you got. All right.
We would encourage people to download the app because they had access to the community feature in Bizzabo, meaning they could message other guests. And there's really no other way to, get a hold or see the list of the other guests except to download the app. And so that was a big draw for everybody to do that.
Yeah, for sure. So let's take a pause and see if anybody has any questions or any upcoming events that they're going to be planning, that they're, excited or even nervous about. No?
Yeah, I would love to know how you guys are thinking about the blend and how much to blend the two audiences.
Because there's a lot of different ways, right? Or a lot of different definitions of what is hybrid. I think, there's just so many different ways you can do it. We've done on demand as our hybrid in the past, right? Where instead of it's in the moment, you have all that live component, it's all just recordings from the event. And then the hybrid component is just these recordings that people can go and look. So I feel like there's those basics all the way to like this live production, which is, so it's like everything in between. So it's really interesting how people define this.
And I think something that's, as we're trying to move more people in person, something I've seen that's worked really well and is a cool idea is you don't even mention that you're offering a virtual part of the event in your promotions until like 3 weeks before. And then you're like, oh yeah, and we're doing virtual. So if you want to join, here you go. But you make it seem like it's in person so you can continue to drive those numbers. So I like that from a promotional standpoint as well.
Yeah, that's tricky too. Go ahead, Colleen.
I think that's interesting because just as an attendee, and I'm in the event space, the tech event space, when say the Linux Foundation or CNCF or whomever launches or starts like conversations or about their next event, one of the first things I always see in the comments, especially in social media, is like, will this be available virtually? It's usually outside the area, maybe where it's, if it's not Vegas or it's not San Francisco or whatever. But that's usually one question that I always see as soon as they make the announcement.
Yeah.
So I just find that interesting because I don't know if this question was answered. I know that you touched upon it, Lisa, in the beginning, but as event professionals, which I don't do most virtual, I'm usually on site. How is that? Are hybrids increasing or virtual alone increasing, or are you finding them like being more open?
Yeah, so we have about 50 clients a year and we produce about 20 to 25 virtual or hybrid events a year. It's all over the board. So last year, pretty much everyone was hybrid across the board. This year, we've had some folks just go to in-person, or they're going to in-person and just streaming, right? They're not doing the whole big, huge platform. They're just streaming. People can tune in if they want. It's just one track. But we have had some backtracking in the last couple weeks where people are like, oh, we're just going to do in person and now we're going to move back to virtual because it's a global market and because of the shift in the industry with budgets, they don't want to spend all this money and then not and cut people out who can't travel in. So I would say it's shifted even within this year. October, November, December, January, February, March, maybe even April leads, right, that have come in, because we see them, they come in all year. Those were more definitive on we're just going to do in person or we're just going to do virtual, less hybrid. May, June, and July, we're now shifting back because we're seeing the market dip. So now people are like, never mind, we're going hybrid because travel costs aren't getting approved. A lot of high-tech companies are either being acquired, laying people off, or cutting budgets. So
Yeah.
seen a shift in the last 3 months. Now, what will happen later this year in all reality? Still TBD. And then what will happen in 2025? Right now, just from our standpoint, we are seeing a shift to in-person for next year. Now,
Wow.
the hybrid virtual conversations are still going on. I think people want to see what happens in the fall to inform what's going to happen next year, with the idea there's 2 budgets being drafted, one for in-person and one for hybrid. Most people are, if they're doing virtual, it's smaller virtual events and, but it kind of is a to be determined, but that's sort of where the industry in tech is right now, all over the place.
Is there any data available for people if they just to help with their decision making, whether they shift or just go solo, like on-site or virtual or hybrid, that influences their decision making? What will be the best ROI or revenue boost? Is there anything that available to help in that decision making?
Very good question. I mean, there's data all over, but as someone who recommends a strategy or not, I recommend the first thing you do is your KPI planning. You have to have your goals set. You have to have your budget set, and then those have to align. So if you do that Mondo work up front with your KPIs, and Kelly, you do, because I've seen all your decks. We should just give Kelly some, and Pavan. I don't know who created all their decks, but when we started working with them, we looked at all their data decks. I've never seen anyone in 25 years that had as much data pulled to inform their decisions.
It was all Kelly.
Yeah. Kelly deserves an award. Where are my emojis? I don't even know. There we go.
Yeah, we do a lot of data analysis. Yeah. Well, and I also think what's interesting too, to your point, what Colleen and Lisa, what you're saying is and again, mega events are operating more pre-COVID because again, I think if you only are given budget to travel for education or for one event a year, you're probably gonna go to a larger event. And so, Colleen, I think it's also been hard for us to say, who's our attendees? What other events do they attend? Who are we competing against? Because look at your event almost as a product in itself. And then could we even get all those attendees in person? I don't think we could. We don't have even though we have a great offering and it's a small event, sometimes it's harder to get the individual contributor or whatever, a manager level, to get their director to approve them to travel to our event. And we knew we're up against that. And so that was one of the things that also drives us to keep virtual.
Julius on LinkedIn. You guys see
I love Julius. He's amazing.
Your most recent post. I'm pretty sure I see every single one.
Did he mention something about that? That'd be cool.
He just did a post about event marketing and making sure that you're talking to your audience. Let me see if I can find it. But basically, here's an example. You go to a website, biggest and greatest event, talk about event marketing. Well, how many event marketing events are there? Probably enough where you're like, okay, I don't know, maybe. You need to speak to your persona very specifically. And that's like, hey, you're going to walk away with the ability to improve on your strategy, streamline your staffing, whatever. Let me see. He's doing a lot of stuff right now too. I'll share my screen really quick. Let's go to screens. But if you go to him, if you're not following him, we're giving you a big plug, Julius. One of my favorites. But go and watch his posts because he has a lot of people doing really good work. So great events, great branding. So look at these events, use these as examples for your website. He also had another one. Where is it? It was basically comparing the front of event marketing website to another one. And one was good marketing and one was not great marketing. I won't list who. But if you're not following him, do. And then maybe we do a follow-up, Jess, on event marketing websites and how to drive registrations and that messaging, because I'm sick of going to a website that's like, they say the exact same thing as every other event.
Like, I hate when they bury the lead and I'm like, how do I just get a ticket to this event? Like so much information. I'm like, oh my God, where is the button for me to get a ticket?
Oh my gosh. It is so big. And I was going to say, we actually made that pivot. I hate that word now, but sorry. No.
I like it. Pivot. That's good.
We were noticing our website to filling out the form conversion rate was hanging around like 20%. And it's a free event. So we're like, why are they just not clicking? Like, it just shouldn't be this low. And then we made one change on the form and then it jumped to 30%. And so that is like a really good statistic to watch. And yeah, to your point, like Jess, they make it so complicated just to register for your event. And you want to make it as easy as possible. And how many people like you could be leaving on the table. And even if you do retargeting, still like your one chance to get them to register is usually that first touch.
Yeah. Well, and how many of you attend events? Not that are not yours.
Like for yourself, basically.
Like an industry event.
Yeah.
So Colleen does. Yeah. I rarely do. So
yeah.
I'm gonna attend one. I keep trying to move it off my calendar and I keep leaving it.
Is it SEMA? Are you going to SEMA? PCMA?
I am not. I am going to PDXYZ. Oh. It's a local Portland leadership event. They have one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. All leaders like Nike and, the big Portland people. And I'm going to go and try to be as focused as possible because, we always have a million things. I keep wanting to take it off, but I'm leaving it. But I challenge you to go to other events. Okay? Don't just go to your event. Register. If you see me run an event and you just want to stay on for the first 30 minutes, go to other events, see what you like, what you don't like. Look at, I hate to say it, but if you see a promo on LinkedIn that looks good, click on it and see where it takes you. And then jot down, right? Do your own market research to figure out what's working. And then also, I might be the only one, but if something is not resonating and someone reaches out to me, I respond to that human and I say, hey, thanks so much for thinking of me and inviting me. I may be your target audience, but this didn't resonate with me. And here's what would. Right? I provide them some feedback. And this one guy was like, because I said, you're assuming I'm not doing my job. And then when you're marketing to me, you're telling me I'm not doing my job. I was like, that's very negative. So flip that into something else so that, so don't just, I think in marketing, that research and providing the room for that. Just like Pavan did so much research for his RFP, but guess what? If he wouldn't have had the time to do it, they would have just made a quick decision and prayed to the Lords that it worked, and maybe it would. And then if Kelly wasn't so purposeful on her agenda planning, exactly the same thing happened. So make sure you provide the space in your work back schedule to do all of that work up front. Okay, we only have a few minutes, so I want to talk about ROI, because you do all this fun stuff and then you have to measure it. And then you're like, I'm never doing this again. This is so much work. But then afterwards, everyone's like, it was a huge success. We're doing it. Okay, so how did you measure, and what are your next steps for the ELT and planning next year?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's different tiers, I would say. Like the main metrics that my company cares about is like what I consider customer engagement. So, how many customers, what percentage of our customer base attended, how many attended? We like to get at least 2 from each company. Same with our key prospects. And then all of it is about the revenue. So even if we don't meet our attendee or registration goal, like did we get the revenue? And it's so interesting. We had lower registrations numbers this year and attendance, but we did like 200 more MQLs than we were expecting because we focused so much more on quality this year than we did in the previous years. And so all of our spend for promotion and stuff was, again, it was about those key customer and prospects that we go after, and whatever we can catch on the side, we're like, great. But, again, and then of course, when planning, I was going to say, since you were talking about like my deck, and I'm like, I'm so happy that you talk about it. I can share, no screenshots, please, but,
it's literally fantastic. I mean, just even scroll down, Kelly, about how many slides.
Yeah. How many?
I mean,
we have 59 slides.
oh, I have never done a retro deck that is 59 slides. Easy.
Thank you. So so customer meetings, MQLs, SQMs, SQOs. And then we do attendance breaks down. This is something that really helps us. So this is like, I would say, a tier 2 measurement for us. We break down the source of all our registrations. Where did they come from? So we also understand how to break down my budget for next year and how much to put towards demand gen efforts and audience acquisition versus other type of channels, and where we need to double down on. So we look at the trends over the years to kind of help us with that. Again, this is the paid digital web traffic. So web traffic, how many are converting from landing on our page to registration, is also a huge thing for us when we're thinking about building our page for next year and modifying, and what that attendee journey is. And then we have registration. Again, enterprise versus mid-market is important for us. And then let me see what other important. Oh, and then just something that, of course, we track is our keynote attendance, the scoring, and that helps us understand as well, like, what content resonated more, what do people want to see again for next year, and then what we can do differently. We take speaker survey results, so who did well, who did not. So we look at that again when we're asking speakers to come back. Again, our survey results, our NPS score has been going up considerably over the years. So that obviously we're continuing to iterate and do better and better. And so there's just like a lot of different type of stuff that, and then this is huge, email acquisition. So we break down every email, how delivered, open rates, clicked through rates, unsubscribe. And we look at what was the subject line and also what was the content. And for each email, when we're building out our email calendar for the next year's promotion. So we do a lot of stuff. But
Yeah, but I think that's a clear path to success, right? So a lot of people just are like, okay, let's do an email every other week. We'll do some random social posts, cross our fingers and hope this comes in. And then they don't come in, and they don't come in, and then they don't come in. And then everybody freaks out.
yeah.
I'm guessing you also had sales enablement and all of that.
Yeah.
So how often did you review your metrics and report them out?
Yeah. So leading up to the event, I would say we were, every other week or whatever, once a month. And then once we got into that 6-week mark, we were on sales every day, every other day. My CMO actually would be sending out reports in alignment with the CRO on making sure that the sales is driving registrations, because you cannot do this without your sales team, especially if it's a customer base event, right, at all. And so they had their own KPIs. We ran spiffs for them and we hammered them as well. So the closer you get to the event, the more frequent the communication was. And I think the week before, it was like every day we were sending an email to sales saying, we would call out AEs specifically and say, this account is not registered yet. What are you going to do? So
Let's say that again. This account is not registered yet. What are you going to do to get them coming in? Folks, that is a very good way to end this session, because guess what? We can do email, social, enablement decks, all sorts of stuff, but we're hearing that the CEO and the revenue sales were in lockstep. And who enabled them? Kelly.
me.
So our job is to enable, but with that ELT, when they spend that much money and they want that much ROI, ELT has to be, what I say, in your boat. If they are not in your boat, your success is going to dramatically decrease. Kelly got her ELT in the boat. Good job, Kelly.
She also wrote the boat.
And she drove the boat.
And I would say too, I've been in the place too where I've sent an email to my ELT and said, you guys are not doing enough. This event will not be successful if you guys do not start pushing down to your directs. And I've had those emails sent. So don't be afraid to see the writing on the wall and push your ELT, because they're so busy with so many different things. Sometimes you just got to wave that white flag at them too.
Well, and you had sprint calls. You had regular touch bases. It wasn't just like once a month or just a weekly email. You were on it. And that makes a difference for sure. Okay, well, thank you so much. Hope you had a great experience. I know that was awesome. I think our next podcast should be about email, web, and social marketing, as well as reporting. So we can get kind of, that's like that next step, whether it's hybrid or not. Everybody needs some tips on that. But thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Pavan. Thank you, Jess, and everybody who joined. We will see you at the next meetup.
Right.
Thank
Thanks
you.
all. Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.